Thank you for joining us on this episode of HR and Cocktails. Today in the Speakeasy, I have Steve Blair with Lyceum Insurance.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about how businesses, particularly small businesses, can use benefits as a tool for attracting and retaining employees. All right, Steve, well, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about you and your organization.
Sure. I am the fourth generation insurance person in my family. It's been something that's been part of my family for a very long time. And my family and I run Lyceum Insurance Services, which is an employee benefits consultation company that helps small and medium-sized businesses, mostly in the Mid-Atlantic region.
Awesome. Well, before we get into how benefits can help organizations, I want to make you a drink.
Yes.
So what drink do we want to make?
I'm very simple. I'll take a bourbon and ginger.
Awesome. Bourbon and ginger coming up.
With makers.
Awesome. A bourbon and ginger with makers coming up.
Great.
Okay, Steve, so you have chosen for your drink makers and ginger.
I did.
All right. So tell me why you chose that drink.
That's my dad's drink. You know, for years I watched my dad have this very simple drink, and I just call it a bourbon and ginger, but I think people also refer to it as a highball.
Oh.
Is that correct?
I don't know that.
I thought
one.
you would know that.
I know I don't. Listen, I just play a bartender on TV.
But in any event, I guess I was destined to drink this drink. And, you know, they're not all the same. Mm-hmm. Every bourbon is so different.
Yes.
And I chose Makers as like my go-to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I have Blanton's and other fancy bourbons, Angel's Envy that I love, but kind of my go-to every time I go to a bar or a restaurant and I order this drink, I'm like, Makers.
Yes.
And you brought a special Makers today.
Well, I brought Makers 46 because that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
And actually what I like about Makers is that my husband and I did the Bourbon Trail in
that's
Louisville.
so cool.
I don't remember what year it is. Time is flying by.
Yeah.
But one thing that I like is that you see how the label has the cutouts. They actually have a machine and a person who just presses the label.
And that's her job all day.
Her job all day. And then also I got a chance to dip my own bottle, which I was horrible
that go?
at. It was not a good, I didn't do well. I didn't
So how
really
do you
follow
do it?
They just have a bottle that has the cork, and then you walk up, and then you dip, hold, and tilt like that.
Yes.
But you have to do it at the right time, so.
Yeah, I think I would goof that all up too.
Yes. So,
Yes.
all right, so we're gonna put some ice in our glass.
Please.
All right, not too much ice though, because we wanna, I don't like it to be too watered down, right?
Right. No, we wouldn't want to water down your booze.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. All right, so we'll put a little, and these things are difficult. So, all right, we'll put a couple more cubes in.
There you go. Love it.
All right, perfect.
And
then I like to eyeball my,
yes.
Yeah, when I just am pouring it in. So, all right, we're just
As my mom used to say, it depends on how the boat was rocking as to how much booze went in.
Yes. All right, you tell me when.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so for your soda, are you a splash or a pour of soda?
You can pour mine in.
All right, well,
you can bring it up.
All right, so I'm more of that. So you do yours.
Yeah, no, you're more varsity level than me.
All right, perfect. And then the final thing, which is a requirement, is a garnish. You must garnish. So we'll make sure that we do a nice garnish.
I love it.
All right, perfect.
Something that's so basic can be quite elegant.
Yes,
cheers.
Thank you. All right, awesome. Well, thanks, Steve.
Cheers to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And further success for you. I love seeing your success.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And it's honestly due to so many people. And we're going to talk about how we leverage our networks to, help businesses, our clients, and ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, as someone in the benefits world for small businesses, talk about how, because there are so many businesses, we go to clients that are like, I don't offer benefits because I don't want to pay for it. I don't know what I need to do. Just talk about the world of benefits for small businesses as it relates to their responsibilities. What do they have to have?
Sure. They actually have to have Not very much.
Right.
So, but it has become a very large tool to attract and retain talent. When you look at a lot of the research that's done, it's always one of the top, one, two, or three things, depending on who's doing the research and how they're posing the questions as to what are employees looking for. And outside of general compensation, one of the big things that they're looking for is security. And security means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But when we talk about these types of things, we're talking about security for your employee and potentially their family, to make sure that they have the resources available in the event that something terrible happens, that they can have protection and coverage in the event they have, hospitalization or some type of medical concern that won't bankrupt them, because the number one reason for bankruptcy in the United States is due to a medical condition. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have medical coverage and you don't have some of the other coverages like disability insurances and things like that that are available in the marketplace, it can lead people down that path of bankruptcy. And that is one of the big things that I think, as people are evaluating one employer versus another employer, is filling that security net.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is something that employees want.
Yes.
But when you are like a new employer and you hire your first employee, so that I will have people call and be like, I'm converting 1099s to employees, but I'm scared. Well, first of all, they think that having someone as an employee means that they have to have benefits, right?
Yes, sure.
So that's the first thing. And then they're like, I don't know, what benefits to get. It seems expensive. I don't want to have to pay for it. So as an under 50 employer, right?
Yes.
Meaning under 50 employees for those that are listening.
Yes.
Under 50 employees, your requirements under the Affordable Care Act are very different.
You don't have to offer benefits at all.
Exactly. And you don't have to have that threshold of, affordability, et cetera. So, what we talk to our clients about a lot of times, especially when they have 2, 3, 4, 5 employees, is you can offer benefits that don't cost you any money.
Correct.
Employer.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah. So tell me, what are some of those options for employers?
So there are, and let me preface this, there are a category of employee benefits, which we'll refer to as volunteer. A lot of times we'll call them work site benefits. And that's where oftentimes you'll have an enroller come out and educate at the facility on site to help people enroll in these benefits that the employees pay for. And so there are a lot of different types of policies that can fall into that area: hospitalization policies, accident policies, life insurance, dental, vision, you name it, you can offer it and make your employees pay for it. You do not have to financially get involved with that as a business owner. And the interesting thing, when I talk to small businesses, they're like, oh, I don't want my employees to be bothered with people trying to sell them things, or, oh, that's going to create too much headache for me administratively. But when you look at attracting and retaining, and you look at who are offering those kinds of benefits, if you're a small employer and you're competing for the same talent as large employers, look on a large employer's website and see what they offer their employees. I think the number is 87%. I think I read this recently. It was like 87% of large businesses offer voluntary benefits. So from a psychological perspective, and I'm not saying that we throw benefits out there that aren't viable. I would never say that. We want things that are good, that people are going to get value out of.
Yes.
But I can, instead of just maybe offering health insurance and dental insurance, have a list this big. By offering these voluntary benefits, I'm offering a much larger, catalog of employee benefits that people can elect into. So if I have an employee that's like, well, this company is offering 2 benefits and this company has 10 different benefits to choose from, psychologically, they're going in that direction. So the number of small businesses that offer these worksite benefits actually very small in comparison to the larger companies. And I think they're doing themselves a huge disservice by doing that.
Yes, I completely agree. And I also think that there are other low-hanging fruit benefits. So before I moved into offering, medical benefits to my employees, I was offering short-term and long-term disability.
Absolutely.
And just a very low threshold of guaranteed life, because that was like $120 a month.
Yes.
For me, for my employees, but I'm providing them 100% company paid benefit.
Correct.
Which is helpful to them.
Yeah.
My cost for that isn't that high, because when you talk about, attracting employees and looking at, how much it costs to bring people into the organization, it costs money to have turnover. So is it
Yes.
cheaper to pay $120 a month to offer some benefits that are
Yeah.
useful to people?
Yes,
Because short-term and
absolutely.
long-term disability is very useful
Have
to employees.
have one employee have a baby.
Yeah, exactly. And so to have that benefit is that's what I don't add very well.
We're talking
$1,400 a
people.
month. Yes, I know exactly. $1,400 a year. I mean, $1,400 a year to offer those benefits for an employee versus the cost
worthwhile
of
investment.
turnover or the cost of having that position open.
So
for
I was
so long.
talking to a CFO for one of my clients, and he loved disability insurance, loved it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love it too, but why is it that you love it?
Yeah.
And he said, I will always offer this because I had an employee many years ago. We did not have this, and the employee got very sick. So sick that they ended up not being able to work, and they had to leave employment, and then eventually they passed away. And the employee's family called him because he was the CFO, and we're like, is there a way you could still continue to pay us? We are not able to pay our bills. We're losing our mortgage on our house. And he said, I never want to be in that position again. And he became a believer, unfortunately, because he saw something bad happen. And it's something that we see in business a lot. And it's a very low hurdle
Yes.
financially to provide something that could make or break a family.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely worthwhile to do that.
It really is. And I think that that's what's important for businesses to know, that there are various types of insurance that you can offer in various levels.
Yeah.
So you don't always have to offer, health insurance that's, platinum level where you're paying $2,000 a month for an employee, right? Those are not necessarily benefits that if you can't afford them, you don't have to. And people understand that. And they're willing to look at what you are offering.
Well, and that's one of the big things when I work a lot with small employers that are just starting out. I'm what's called a hub broker, HUB, with Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is more like it's an extra kind of layer of brokerage within the broker community. I'm more of like an administrative broker. So I have direct access into the carrier systems. When we load somebody, we load them directly into Facets, which is the system that the carriers use for eligibility and enrollment. And I can print an ID card and give someone an ID card the same day, and they could go to the doctors. That's huge value for us to be able to do that. And because of that, when people call into a carrier like Blue Cross Blue Shield, where I have that relationship with them, they actually send those to me, and they're a lot of times small mom and pop, businesses that want to start out, and they've never offered insurance before, and they don't know what it costs. And then I quote it. And I'll send, this is my preliminary results. Let's set up a time to talk. And then it's silence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I understand. And so what I started to do is say, you're going to get sticker shock.
Yeah.
If you haven't purchased these benefits before, they're very expensive. You're going to have sticker shock. That's okay. We can talk about it. But some businesses just can't afford that. As much as they want to be able to do it, they can't afford it. So I educate on something that leads to no revenue for me. And that's called, there are these things in the marketplace called QSE HRAs, or in the industry we call them QSERAs. And they are HRAs that an employer can set up, and employees could go get their own plan in the individual marketplace and get reimbursed for some premium. And this is where an employer could say, I want to, contribute, I can afford to contribute X amount of dollars, whatever that X happens to be that they can afford. I still want to have my employees get coverage and participate in that coverage. So when they can set up these plans, the employee can send in their receipt for paying their plan through the individual exchange and get reimbursed, usually within 24 to 48 hours for that from the vendor. And that way the employer can kind of tip their toe into offering an employee benefit program if they can't afford, a full out program, but still want to be able to contribute something that doesn't create a taxable liability to the employee. Because if they just up the employee's pay, say $100 a month, they're going to have to pay taxes on that.
Yes.
But when you run it through these programs, you can do that with no tax implication to the employee, and the employer can still get the deduction for offering the benefit.
Yeah.
So I educate on that a lot, and I turn away business all the time because of that, because it's the right thing to do for the client at that point in time, and it will come back to me. It
Yeah.
will come back to me when they're ready to do it. It will come back to me when they have a friend that has a need, they'll send them to me. So I always feel that it's always right to do what's best for the client, not for myself.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a great point. And also, it's important for employers to understand that there are so many
So
options.
many
So
options.
many options. So we've been talking about really small businesses that are just dipping their toe into insurance and offering benefits to their employees. And as we said, there are options from you don't pay any contribution to your liability is just about $100 a month to, okay, I'm going to reimburse you for any expenses that you have on your own if you get your own qualified plan, right? So what about businesses that have established themselves
Yeah.
and have benefits? We've seen, larger employers, they're self-funded, right?
Yes.
Smaller employers don't necessarily have that. Mid-sized employers don't necessarily have the freedom to
There
be
are
able to
some
do that.
products out there.
There are. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk about, like level funded plans.
I love them.
Yeah. So talk about level funded
Yeah.
plans and what that means versus a self-funded plan, because it's kind of like the transition into,
I think I used to go like this: traditional insurance, like fully insured, like we talk about. Then I would say, all right, let's do an HRA. So we'll do a high deductible plan with a reimbursement component. So it's kind of like dipping your toe into the self-funding.
Yeah.
Then go level funded. And then when somebody is really financially viable, then they could look at like full, true self-funding, which can look a lot of different ways.
Correct.
So level funding, fully insured, we pay the insurance company a premium. If we have a claim, they pay it. If we don't have claims, they say, thank you very much for our profit. And at renewal, you get a 12% increase, whether you used it or not.
Absolutely.
In the self-funded, so we'll call true self-funding, and I only recommend these to very large companies that have a lot of cash because you pay claims as they come in. And the way, depending on how you do it, your claims liability from month to month could build on top of one another. And I was brought in, I want to say it was like 10, 15 years ago for a very large national nonprofit. If I said the name, you would know. And the board terminated the entire executive team because they put in one of these programs and they didn't have the money to be able to fund it. And all of a sudden, these claims liabilities started adding up. And then at the end of the year, there was some major claims, and the carrier was like, all right, we need $300,000. And the client was like, we don't have that.
Yeah.
And that led to the plan kind of blowing up. So I never like those style of plans where my liability is kind of a moving target if I don't have cash.
Yeah.
So level funding is a really cool option because what that does, when we look at level funding, we're often look at two different variables, what are called a specific deductible and what's called an aggregate deductible. And those deductibles are how much I, as the employer, are going to pick up as liability for claims that come in for my team. Now, the employees are going to have a health plan, they're going to have copays, they're going to have a premium every month like they do under fully insured.
Right.
What we're really talking about is kind of what happens in the financial package on the back end. So what I do, if that aggregate deductible is the total number of claims that I would have to pay as an employer during a year for all of my staff. Specific deductible is how much I may have to pay for one specific employee for their claims. So we're usually talk about those two things. But when we look at it in aggregate, let's say I'm going to use simple math because I'm not a math person either. Let's say our deductible liability is $120,000. So if I take that divided by 12, every month I have $10,000 deductible liability. When we do level funding, we're funding our plan at the maximum liability for that funding number. So every month I'm paying in that 1/12. That 12 grand is part of, and that 12 grand plus the administrative cost to run the plan is what comes up with our employee spouse, employee child, and family rates. And those add up to that deductible liability every month. So I'm paying every month as if I had maxed out my liability. And at the end of the period, they do a true up, usually after about 3 months, because sometimes we have claims that were incurred but not paid during the year that we had it. So at the end of that period, they do a true up. And if there's savings, I could share in that savings.
Yes.
Whereas fully insured, the insurance company says, thanks for the profit.
Exactly.
So,
And you're insuring everything.
yes.
Like literally Band-Aids, aspirin,
Anything you
everything.
want.
Exactly yeah. So and as a smaller business, it is the way to go because know your amount of liability,
Yeah.
period.
Yep. It is the way.
It's a finite amount of money that you're going to pay. But, talking about, the various benefits, because we want to attract and retain, what are you seeing are some benefits that employees are asking for?
I'm going to talk about some that have nothing to do with me.
Okay.
Flex time,
Yeah.
work from home. I'm reading a lot of articles. I talk to a lot of employees. That's a big differentiator for me in the marketplace is that my clients' employees have access to me. So I'm talking to employees all the time. And when the clients start saying we want people to come back in the office 2-3 days a week, I hear about it because people complain to me about it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things recently that people are asking for, the flex time or being able to continue to work remotely because so much changed during COVID.
It did.
Behind that, obviously, health insurance is the big driver, dental, vision, disability. I would rather somebody forego dental and disability, dental and vision insurance to get that disability insurance because like you said, I feel that it's so important for people to be a protection there.
Yeah.
But those are the big ones. But some of the other things, if you read the research and this from what you do, people are looking for opportunities to be able to grow at work. Somebody doesn't want to necessarily come in and do a job for the rest of their life. They want to have opportunities for growth. So that's a big one that we see when I look at the research. Offering classes, tuition reimbursements, but also, on the job training, learning other things, being able to have opportunities to develop and grow within your own framework is something that employees are looking for these days, on top of, the big ones like health insurance and retirement plans and all of that.
Well, I definitely appreciate the fact that you've brought up some non-monetary benefits, right?
And those are coming up in the research. They used to be way down at the bottom, but now they're
Yes.
coming up at the top.
They are. And so I think that that's important for people to understand too, is that there are a lot of non-monetary benefits that people are looking for. I will say though, for the remote work piece, that I know that, employees want to continue to work remotely, forever, unlimited, all the time. But I personally don't believe that businesses will be able to sustain just everyone working from home all the time and every business just becoming a virtual business. I just don't believe
I think
that's
there's certain
sustainable.
jobs that can be remote, but I've noticed during even myself where I'm like, it used to be so much easier to just walk down the hall
Yeah.
and collaborate with somebody. Now we have to set up time and, I agree.
Yeah.
I used to think the other way, but
Yeah.
as time has gone on and my team has been working remote, personally, I hate it.
Yeah.
Some of my team loves it, and I want to be able, from an employee work-life balance, they tell me that it has been working very well for them, and I want to continue to foster that. But I am creating office space so that my team that wants to come in the office a couple days a week has a place to go, because I think you lose that collaboration.
Yeah, you do. And what I've started to see is that people are starting to be more hybrid. So everyone has to be in on, Monday and Wednesday. And the other days you can come in or you can work remotely. And so I think that a lot of organizations are starting to
like
go
that.
to that, where it's like the mandatory days in and then the rest are remote if you want to.
Yeah, and as I'm out networking, as soon as I network with somebody that's in the real estate, commercial real estate, I'm always like, corner them. I'm like, what's happening?
Yes.
What are you
yes.
seeing in the marketplace? Because they know,
Exactly.
they got their finger on it.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing, even within my own client base, but in speaking to these, you have businesses that are now changing their workspaces to be more flexible in that way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. When before we went to before COVID, we used to call them hot desks.
Yeah.
It
It reminds me when I was in the Navy, we had hot racks.
Yeah, exactly. So, we would have a hot desk in that would be for anybody who is like traveling in town, somebody,
Pop in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that, that flex space, that open space is what a lot of places are moving to. But what are you seeing? So I actually had someone email me recently and ask me about Oh gosh, student loan payoffs.
Yeah.
What are you seeing in the student loan world?
I'm not see there are programs out there to do that. And I have some very good vendors that work in that space and specialize in that
Okay.
space. But I'm personally not seeing a lot of employers doing that, at least where they're talking to me about it.
Okay.
And it might be because it's not insurance related that they're not talking to me about it, but we do the employee open enrollment meetings for our clients, and they're certainly not talking about those extra benefits at that time.
Which would be a huge benefit if they offer it.
Absolutely. I'd be blowing that trumpet all day long.
Talk about I had a client that was offering a benefit that was somewhat of a cash benefit, right?
Okay.
And they were not. Oh my gosh, the word always impute. They were not imputing the wages.
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about I know you're not a tax person,
No,
right?
of course.
But it's a benefit, and if it's a cash benefit that's going directly to the employee, it is taxable. So
Right.
can you kind of talk about what some of those cash benefits look like and the responsibility for employers? 'Cause I think they can just do this and there's no implications.
So with my happy disclaimer that I am not a tax advisor
Yep.
or an attorney giving legal advice.
Exactly.
The main benefits that you can deduct would be things around health and welfare. Some things you don't want to deduct, like life insurance. You don't want to deduct life insurance because the
Right.
benefit when it goes out is not taxable when you pay it with post-tax dollars. Disability insurance. If it's employer paid, then the employee has to pay taxes on the benefit like it's income. But if the employee pays the premium, and there's a way you can kind of hybrid those together doing a gross up. That's a whole another conversation.
Yes,
But you
yes.
could gross up so that the employee pays the taxes on it, then that income wouldn't be. But there's a lot of benefits that were, I'll give you a weird one. I was talking to one of my vendors. He worked with a trade association that worked in the firearms industry, and they wanted their employees to be able to go to the gun range and shoot bullets, and bullets are very expensive. Ammunition is very expensive. So they gave their employees an allotment of money to be able to use to purchase bullets.
Yep.
So they could go to the range. It's the industry they worked in,
Yeah.
not pre-tax. So the employer can give a benefit like that and hire a vendor. Those are kind of part of those old like cafeteria
Yes.
style like plans,
Yes.
But there are
yes.
vendors out there that can put together these programs. And you could think of anything under the sun to do it if you have the right vendor that knows how to do it appropriately for you. And in that circumstances, the employees were able to get so much per month and they could get reimbursed for it, but they would have to pay taxes on
Yes.
any of the money that they took out.
Yes. And so I think it's important as people are thinking about unique benefits to
Yeah.
offer
Yeah.
that there are tax implications
Sure.
to some of those benefits.
But you can do some really
particularly-
cool things.
Oh, no, you definitely can.
Yeah.
And we're not even going to get into Section 125. So we're going to leave Section 125 over there for those of you listening. Section 125
we
is.
could talk that on another
I
time.
know, exactly. Section 125 is part of the IRS code that allows people to have pre-tax deductions for qualifying benefits.
Yeah.
That's, a part of what employees get the benefit of if you have a premium only plan.
Well, if you're doing pre-tax deductions, you're supposed to be running a POP plan, premium
Correct.
only plan.
Yep.
So there is documentation for that. Where can you get that documentation? There's resources online you can get it from. I know the payroll companies love to charge money to prepare those documents, or you can work with brokers like myself. We have
Right.
software and we do those for our clients, and I do them at no cost.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
the anti-payroll company, extra fee guy.
Yeah, and I will say, it's just so many things that, I think make offering benefits intimidating
Yeah.
to businesses. But it's important for them to understand that when you work with a broker, right?
Or a great HR consultant.
Yes, who will then call a great broker, that you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
I like to say that we boil the ocean
Yeah.
of all of the options that are out there because there's so many,
There are,
right?
yeah.
But we really try to help guide them in that direction. So is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you think we should discuss?
Not if we're talking about small business, the biggest thing that I want small businesses to understand. And this comes from, we work with very small employers and very large employers. I have employers whose annual spend on health insurance is over $1 million a year.
Okay.
So I have some very large clients. But I love helping small employers because they need someone like me more than a large company that might have a dedicated HR person or a CFO that understands these kinds of things.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things, and we kind of touched on this a little bit, is that as a small employer, there are lots of options for you. You can start offering benefits with no additional out-of-pocket cost or very little out-of-pocket cost and bring that value to your team. The best thing that you can do is, as a small employer, is to find that advisor, find the HR professional, find the employee benefits advisor, talk to some of your peers that have advisors that actually help them. That was one of the big reasons that I went back and started really focusing on helping small employers, is I found that after the Affordable Care Act, they cut the compensation in the small employer marketplace, and my peers stopped helping people because they weren't making as much money, and I thought that was a travesty. I'm a small business owner. Even though I'm the largest independent broker in the state of Maryland that sells health insurance, I'm still a small employer, and I need help. I know what I know, but I don't know the other things like HR. I need someone like you that can help me with those things. And I need a good tax advisor, and I need a good accountant, and I need a good bookkeeper and a good attorney and all of these things. And how we met one another, networking, I met these individuals that were like me, that liked helping small employers, that wanted to be that trusted advisor. And so that's why I like to do it. I love helping small employers for that reason, because a lot of times they look at it and they're like, I can't afford this.
Yep.
But like we talked about, you can do those QSARAs, you can offer voluntary benefits, you can find benefits that provide a lot of value and safety and protection for pretty small out-of-pocket costs, and bring a lot of that to your staff. And it helps with morale, it helps attract, and it definitely helps retain talent.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for
It's my
sharing.
pleasure. I loved being here today.
Yes, awesome. And we loved having you. Well, I loved having you. I don't know who the we is. Maybe it's all the people in
Let's
my
just
brain
say the
with this
collective we
cocktail.
that are listening right now, you people.
Exactly. Well, thank you. And
my
thank you
pleasure.
all for joining us for this episode of HR and Cocktails.